Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, this is just to let you know that this is a mini video series on the self-limiting beliefs and behaviors that hold us back from pursuing our true passion and purpose in life. There's an introductory video to this series, so if you haven't checked it out yet, please do so now. I will leave a link above and below in the description. But if you want to skip that and just listen along, because today we're going to be talking about how to overcome a fear of failure. There are many ways to overcome a fear of failure, but today I'm going to talk about three in particular. So the first one is actually a story and an experience that I want to share with you, which will help you visualize this concept in a nice practical way. So a couple of years ago, I attended this workshop or forum. It was kind of like about psychology in a way. And they called some members of the audience to come up and give a live demonstration. And it so happened that I was one of those audience members. And I was the one who was representing the person who is working towards a goal. And there were 4 other audience members. And so the facilitator asked me to give an example of a goal that I wanted to work towards. I can't remember what example I gave, but for today's purposes, I'm just going to say, I want to start an online business of some sort. Let's say a clothing business, okay? So that was my goal, and there was one audience member who was representing that goal, and they were standing some ways in front of me, far out in front of me. And 3 other audience members were representing my fears. So the facilitator also asked me to give an example of 3 fears that I have about starting this business. So let's say, for example, it was a fear of failure, a fear of rejection, and a fear that I'm not good enough. So each person was representing one of these fears. So someone's representing a fear of failure, a fear of rejection, a fear of not being good enough. And these fears, or these people, were holding on to a part of my body. So one of them was holding on to my ankle, another one was holding on to my leg, another one was holding on to my arm. And the facilitator instructs me to move towards my goal. So as I start trying to move forward, these fears are gripping and holding me back from going anywhere. And they are yelling at me, "You're not good enough. You're a failure." And so on and so forth. And they just keep yelling these words. And the facilitator, he himself, is yelling at me to move towards my goal. And I'm like, but I can't. Like, he's like, "Why can't you move?" And I'm like, but they're holding me back, and like they're screaming in my ear. So eventually he says, "Tell the fears that you hear them, but you're going to do it anyway." And so I start looking at them. I start looking at the people who are representing my fears. And I'm like, "I hear you, but I'm going to do it anyway. I hear you, but I'm going to do it anyway. I hear you." And I just keep repeating this. And slowly I'm able to start moving towards my goal, because their voices start drowning out, and they start losing their grip on me. And eventually I'm able to reach my goal. So the moral of the story, as you can guess, is that we all have fears. We all are going to have some fears that are holding us back. But the point is to not let those fears stop you from moving forward. You want to acknowledge the fear and do it anyway. And this leads me into point number 2. There are 2 basic human emotions, love and fear. And fear serves a purpose. The purpose of fear is to protect us from danger. So when there's a bear chasing you, or there's a shark in the water, or there's any other physical threat, fear helps you. And we have built-in mechanisms, defense mechanisms, to protect us from danger. For example, flight, fight, freeze, and fawn. Maybe you've heard of the first 3, and maybe you haven't heard of the 4th one. But these are interesting topics to kind of get into and research and understand. Sometimes this fear is misplaced, because It's just looking for any type of threat. And often as human beings, we're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of how we might be received. And so this fear is kind of like trying to protect us. The point is not to judge the fear or give into the fear, but to acknowledge the fear. Acknowledge it and thank it for doing its job. It's trying to protect you. But once you've weighed the benefits and the risks, and you feel like this is something that has more benefits than risk, acknowledge the fear, thank it for doing its job, and do it anyway. Take the action, take the step, take the next step forward. Point number 3, I want you to ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen if I fail? Just think about it. What is the worst thing that could happen? Maybe people are gonna laugh at you. Maybe you're gonna get rejected. Maybe you're gonna have your ego shattered. What is the worst thing that could happen? You have to answer that question for yourself. And then I want you to ask yourself another question. Which one is more worth it? The pain of rejection or the pain of regret when you take your dreams to the grave? It's a choice. You have to decide. Are you gonna succumb to the pain of rejection, or are you gonna succumb to the pain of regret when you didn't act on those dreams and you wasted years and years and years of your life, holding back from fulfilling your true purpose in life? I'd like to encourage you to dig deeper. An exercise that you can do is take a piece of paper and a pen, write down the fear, like, I have a fear of failure to do this particular thing, and then ask yourself the question, what is the worst thing that could happen if I do that? What is the worst thing that could happen if I fail? And an answer may come back. And then I don't want you to stop there. I want you to ask the question again. What is the worst thing that could happen if that latter thing happens? And just keep going until you get to a point where you can't answer the question anymore. Let's see if you guys can guess what the number 1 self-limiting belief is. What is the thing that I think affects like the majority of people at the core? What is underlying all those other fears that you have? And that is something that I'm going to be revealing in the final video of this mini series. But I think maybe you've guessed it already, or maybe you're still going to guess it when you do this exercise. So if you have, or if you want to give some guesses, then please leave a comment below. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video.